Hi everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. Thank you for stopping right here on my space today. So in today's tutorial, I'll be quickly sharing with you all how to sew this beautiful trendy asymmetrical neckline gown with this drape or pleats at the sides, and also how to perfectly fix your ostrich feathers to this and your zipper as well.
Our hearts beat to the city streets.
So in the first part of this tutorial, which is the drafting part, I shared with you all how to go about the drafting of the upper part and the skirt part of this gown. So I gave a detailed process on how to go about all of this. So if you're yet to watch out that video, I'll be linking it in my comment section so that you go watch out the first part of this video, which is the drafting part. You can see I'm doing right here. Then after that, you can now feel free to come back to watch the second part, which is going to be the sewing or the joining part. Okay, so this is a well detailed process on how to go all about this, on the slashing and the spreading to the pleating as well. So I'd encourage you to please go watch that out before you come back to watch this one, right? And like I said earlier in the first part of this tutorial, this fabric is a stretchy fabric. That is why you don't see any stitching or sewing allowance at the sides. So I already went ahead to mark these chalks, which I already did in the first tutorial, and I will start now by joining this just as I illustrated at the end part of the first tutorial. So that's why I encourage that if you're yet to watch that tutorial, please kindly do so that you can understand everything I'm doing right here. So how do we start by pleating this? You are going to make sure that the chalk marked at the two sides align. So you are going to drag the fabric from the down where the chalk was marked to the upper part where the chalk was marked. So you can see what I'm doing right here, and you can see that this part didn't really align properly. I had to remove this and place it properly to make sure that the two chalks align. So by doing this, you're not going to exceed the inches that you left for this pleating or this draping, right? So you are going to carefully do this, as you can see I'm doing right here. So after doing this for one side, I'll proceed to also do it for the second side. So if you're wondering how many inches I'm sewing with this from the side, this is about quarter to half. It's not really half of an inch exactly. It's about quarter to half of an inch, right? Because at the end of the day, I'll be joining the sides using just half of an inch. But the most important thing right here is for you all to see how I'm joining this, making sure that the chalk at the lower part meets the one at the upper part, and I will go ahead and stitch. So even if you don't understand my explanation, I believe that this video is very clear enough. So I'm going to do this all the way to the full length of this skirt part of my gown. I'll do it for the two sides and also for the back part of my skirts. And after all of that, this is what I have. You can see how nice and beautiful this is all looking. So this is how I went about the draping of the gown you see at the beginning of this video. So this is for the back part, and you can see that I also did the same thing. So all I'm going to do now is to place them right sides facing each other. And while placing this, do remember that, okay, I'll give you a little trick here, right? The part that seems like it's too big is the upper part, or you can go ahead and notch it. So the tiny part is the lower part, okay? So you don't get confused while fixing yours, because at some point it was as if I was a bit confused on the upper part and the lower part. So you can see that part that has fullness more than the down part, that is the upper part. You understand the explanation I give here when you're trying to recreate yours, okay? So I'm going to join the two sides using half of an inch, right sides facing each other, right? So after that, now I will take this aside. I will finish up with the front part of with the upper part of this gown. So here is the front part of the upper part, and I'm going to cut out the facing for this. So I'm going to get started by bringing this my fabric right side facing the camera, and I'm going to get this my front piece, and I'm going to face it right side facing the fabric, right? So all I'm going to do now is to start by measuring out how deep I want the facing to be. So we know this type of gown, usually their facing is not always deep, or it doesn't get to your half length. It stops like 3 inches below your neckline, right? So I started off by cutting out the armhole area. So I'm going to just carry this my piece up, and my reason for allowing this to get up to the armhole area is because of the asymmetrical neckline. It's kind of deeper, so that is the reason why I went this deep. Normally I just mark 3 inches around, and that will give me the perfect facing that I need. But for this particular one, I had to go deeper because of the asymmetrical neckline, which came too deep. So if I'm to mark 3 or 2 inches from the actual neckline, it's not going to cover up the symmetrical neckline properly. So I believe you understand the explanation I gave right here. So you also pay proper attention to see the part that I'm cutting off right here. You can see the neckline, the shoulder, and the armhole area. Okay, so after cutting all of this out, I'm just going to go ahead to stitch.
We began to feel the fire.
So I'm going to stitch from here the neckline and stop at that point, and also stitch the other side. So I also did the same and cut out the facing for the back. So right here I've stitched that and I top stitch, but if you don't want to top stitch, just raise this up and iron your hemming gum in between your facing and your fabric. Okay, so for me, at the point I did this, there was no light for me to fix my hemming gum, so that was why I top stitched. So for the back facing, for the neckline, you can see that I left about 1 inch. Reason is because I'm going to be covering up my zipper using my facing. So while doing this, you understand better the explanation I'm giving right there. So the next I'm going to do now is to join the front and the back part of my upper dress. I'll do this by placing this right sides facing each other, and I'm going to join the sides using 1/2 inch, and I'll join the upper and the shoulder, sorry, using 1/2 inch. Shoulder for the asymmetrical neckline might not align, but it's nothing to worry about because you just trim that off a little. So this is the joint part of my skirts, and you can see what it looks like. So I'm just going to fold this into 2 equal halves to get the middle, and I'll go ahead now to notch this. So I'm also going to get the joint part of my upper dress, and I'm also going to fold this into 2. Remember I told you that I joined all of this by the sides using 1/2 inch at both sides. So I'll also fold it into 2 equal halves and notch the middle as well. So this notch part, I'm going to make sure that the 2 meets, and I'm going to pin this. So while pinning this, even on the side, you can see that it corresponded. Yes, it corresponded at the side. So that is the essence of being very careful while stitching or sewing. So while pinning, you open up your seam. You don't pin while your seam is one side. So open up your seam and pin this open. So when you sew open and flat, so it doesn't look bulky on the sides. Okay, so open up, you can see, open up your seam and pin and stitch, or open up your seam and stitch, whichever one that works for you perfectly. So I'm going to stitch this down using just 1/2 inch, which I gave this while drafting. And after that, this is what I have. So the next thing I'm going to proceed to do is to fix my zipper to this gown. So right here, you'll be understanding the reason I left that 1 inch at the neckline of my back dress. So I went ahead to raise that facing up. So I'm going to pin my zipper to this right side of the left side of my gown. So I'll pin this zipper right here.
We rise like tall buildings as the chemicals they take us high.
So after pinning the zipper, the next thing that will be done is to stitch. So I'll assume that I've stitched that down, and you're going to open your zipper, and you're now going to use the remnant of your facing to place on top of this zipper this way and stitch. So by the time you stitch this and you flip this inside out, you're going to have a very nice and covered finishing. So I'll also go to my sewing machine and show you how to go about this, because I believe it wasn't too clear enough right here.
The night's young, it is just begun.
So firstly, I'll go ahead to stitch my zipper at both sides of my back dress, and after that you can see what I have. So this zipper now, I'm going to turn it so you can see how it's facing, right? I opened this up after fixing, so I went ahead to turn it like this and use my facing to cover it up. So I'm going to stitch up using this 1/2 inch and cover my zipper. So I'll cut off the upper parts, and for the other side I'm also going to stitch it as well. So if you watch properly, you can see this is the side, so I'll use this my facing now to stitch it up. So please, apologies for this camera shaking. I was actually holding it with my 2 hands. You can imagine holding it with my 2 hands and also sewing, so that was why it kept shaking. But I believe you understand everything I did right here. So if you are to do this is what you are going to have. So I'll cut off these excesses at the top part of my zipper, and I will turn this to the right side. So after closing off the neckline area, the side, you're going to stitch it down as well. So when you stitch it down, you flip it inside out, and this is exactly what you're going to have. So that's how to have a perfect neat finishing on this type of fabric. You know, more like all these ready to wear outfits where you might be wondering most times how the zipper was properly fixed and closed. So this is just that, guys. So having done this, I will proceed now to fix my sleeve. I drafted my sleeve and fixed it behind the camera, and I've already fixed one part of this ostrich feathers to my sleeve, and I'll proceed now to show you all how to also fix the other side. So for this ostrich feathers, you cannot sew directly on your sewing machine because you're going to have your one full packet of needle all broken. So how do we go about this? It's either you gum this to your fabric or you tack this. So I prefer tacking mine because the gum might not really make it look neat most of the times, in the sense that you might just make a mistake or two. So I prefer tacking this, right? So I'll place this my ostrich feathers, the plain part on the hem of my sleeve, and I'll go ahead to tack and sew this all around using my hand needle and my thread. So continue doing this for all the sides, and guys, that's all for this tutorial. So by the time I did all of this, that was how I achieved exactly what you saw at the beginning of this video. So if you still have excesses and you don't want to cut this off because this is quite expensive to be wasted, you can go ahead and fold it and continue tacking, because that was all I did. So knot this after tacking. Make sure you knot this properly, and you definitely have exactly the same thing I have right there. Thank you all so much for watching. See you all in my next one. Bye.